Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're located. My name is Alex, and welcome to today's office hour session when we are going to talk about the Windows virtual machines and how to run these Windows virtual machines with OpenNebula and how to manage them. So today with me is my colleague Mikolai. He's from engineering team, and yeah, he's going to lead this amazing session about a very interesting topic, I would say. As usual, we are going to start with a brief introduction, some hints, tips about Windows virtual machines, and then we will proceed with your questions. So feel free to use the chat, right, to ask your questions, and we will address them straight after the short presentation about Windows virtual machines. And also, we have some questions from our forms that were sent during the registration. Once again, I would really welcome you to drop these questions via the form for the next office hour sessions. It's really good to see them there. So, and well, off we go. Hi, Mikolai. Thank you for joining in. So the stage is yours.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Hello, everyone. So today we are going to talk about running Windows virtual machines with OpenNebula. And the agenda for today's session is the following. The first, I would like to tell you about what Windows VM template is, which we have in our marketplace. Then I would like to say a few words about installation procedure, mention some recommendation we actually suggest to follow. And after that, I would say a few words. I would like to say a few words about post-installation steps. Few slides about troubleshooting, and at the end, we are going to reply on your questions. So, in order to simplify our users' life and customers, the Windows VM template has been crafted and uploaded and shared through our marketplace, public marketplace, and it contains the following. So first of all, it contains a placeholder for the Windows placeholder, which is a disk for the Windows where you're going to install a Windows operating system. So the second disk is ISO disk with virt.io drivers for Windows. Then it's another ISO disk with OpenNebula contextualization packages. And apart from that, this Windows VM template contains optimal virtual machine settings for Windows. You can actually check this image online if you go into the www. No, it's just without W, so it's just marketplace.openable.io, and in the search bar you input Windows VM. You will find this template, which is present on the screen. So you can, or you can go open your OpenNebula account, cloud interface, web interface, Farage, and go to the storage and apps and enter in the search bar the same Windows VM, and you'll find it there, and you can import into your OpenNebula cloud. So few notes, few recommendations, what we recommend you to take into account when you install an operating system. First of all, when you imported image template into your OpenNebula cloud, when you instantiate virtual machine from this image, it's not necessary to modify it. You can tune it when you instantiate virtual machine. For example, if you're going to add Windows installation ISO, it's not necessary to apply these changes on permanent basis, because maybe you would like to use this virtual machine template for installing several Windows flavors. So every time it's not necessary to make these changes. I mean, uploading different images. So the second recommendation is to use bus, which is called parallel ATA or IDE or HDA. because for Windows installation ISO and for virtual ISO, because otherwise Windows installation is not going to start, and the same true for virtual ISO, because it contains drivers for virtual bus, which we have for disk, empty disk we are going to install in Windows operating system. And so please, for both of them, apply these settings: bus equals HDA or parallel data, depending on which interface you're using. The third advice would be, if you're going to use our empty disk, please remember to adjust its disk size, because by default it just occupies 5 gigs. But depending on the Windows flavor, the minimum amount of disk space varies, but at least our suggestion, try to use it 20 gigabytes. So remember, attach network interface card to this virtual machine if you are going to use network for downloading some stuff, but normally you don't need this during Windows installation. And if you're going to attach network interface card, we recommend to use virt.io model for this, for best performance. In the host booting tab, please make sure that Windows installation ISO is selected as a first booting disk. If you would like to have a trusted platform model support, the recommendation is to use its CRB flavor, because it supports the latest v2.0 standard. We actually provide support for two of them, two TPS flavors, like TPM flavors, like CRB and TIS, but the recommendation is to the latest one. I mean, the CRB, which supports the latest standard. So during Windows installation, at certain stage, it tries to access your hardware drive, I mean virtual machine hardware drive, and you have to provide here a driver for it, virt.io driver. So we have to choose virt.io iSCSI controller in order to let Windows recognize your disk drive properly. It might be required to press on Bring Disk Online in order to proceed further. As soon as you have Windows installed, you have to run Explorer, access your access your drives, and go to the virt.io disk ISO and install the rest of the virt.io drivers. Actually, they provide support for memory ballooning, network cards, and stuff, and other stuff. So apart from that, we also recommend you install Windows OpenNebula contextualization package, which provides you capability to manage different settings like network settings, user management, and other configuration settings for virtual machine from OpenNebula. Then, if you would like to verify your TPM functionality, you can run PowerShell, for example, and execute get TPM command there, just to make sure that TPM model was recognized properly. After that, you have to power off your virtual machine and save its disk as a new image, which you're going to use as a golden image for other virtual machines. If you need reset Windows administrator password, and you have OpenNebula contextualization package installed into your Windows disk, you can use OpenNebula contextualization in OpenNebula. The following attributes: a username, which should be equal administrator, and the password, where you have to provide in a plain text password, and it will be encrypted in the base64, encoded in the base64 format. So one note about password: it has to be compliant with Microsoft password policies, otherwise it's not going to be applied. Few words about troubleshooting. So if your virtual machine fails to boot, please, and you used a custom path for the bootloader, please try to boot your virtual machine without this custom path. So keep default settings and check if virtual machine is booting properly. If There is also possibility to provide a custom path for the firmware, and also make sure that you use a proper one. For example, if you decided to use secure boot, so it means firmware secure attribute is set to yes. Please make sure that your firmware binary supports, you specify a path to the proper firmware binary. And if you experience some contextualization issue, for example, network settings haven't been applied properly, or username was not updated, the password wasn't reset, something like this. So the first recommendation is to check if OpenNebula contextualization service is up and running. So you have to run services and make sure that OpenNebula contextualization service is enabled and running. And the second recommendation of that topic is to check OpenNebula contextualization log file, which is located at that path. And if you're trying to access your virtual machine over network, for example, to check if it's available over network and trying to ping it and it's not responding, make sure that Windows Firewall is not blocking ICMP packets. That's all from my side.
Cool. Thank you, Mikolai. Actually, I would like to add another thing about the networking. As you know, OpenNebula has the this security groups, which is part of networking, and that is another layer where you could have something like even ICMP are getting blocked, or let's say RDP protocol is getting blocked even like before reaching your virtual machine, so it's blocked by the host, basically. So if your virtual machine is not pingable, it's not necessarily a Windows firewall, right? So it might be something on the security groups. So yeah, sometimes it's the virtual machine, but sometimes it's something else. So yeah, don't just reinstall the Windows because it's not pingable.
Yeah, good point, Alex. Thanks. Yeah.
And also on the networking side, the DNS, something if you just connect it to your Windows virtual machine from the VNC, you may see that the Windows icon shows that there is no networking. In fact, I had this experience myself. I was trying everything, but then I just realized that the DNS was wrong. So Windows were not able to properly resolve, the domains and stuff. And that was the reason why Windows told me that there is no networking. But I was like, oh, why it's not working? I have no networking. Probably I tried to, reconfigure everything. And I even went down to reinstall the OpenNebula and reinstall the Windows from scratch. But then I just looked at my DNS settings and I was like, well, wait a second. That one is wrong. So yeah, there are multiple things. So be careful with that. And with this, we would like to open pretty much open to questions and answers. And we had like a couple of questions that were sent to us beforehand. So, Mikolai, question number one would be, what is the recommended bus type for Windows virtual machine disks? Is it VirtIO or SCSI? And yeah, which one we should pick?
So it depends on your use case. For example, if during this presentation I mentioned that it was recommended to select VirtIO bus type, it's okay, and it has the following advantages. It's pretty robust. It's compatible with pretty old Windows flavors. It has it is pretty lightweight. So yeah, you should go for that if you, for example, install in Windows. So yeah, you do not expect a heavy load from in terms of disk I/O. So yeah, but SCSI, we recommend iSCSI when you want to benefit from its feature like trimming. Then, for example, it provides a possibility to organize so-called queue. I mean, there is a special attribute in OpenNebula like virt underscore iSCSI queues. So you have to play with it a bit to improve your performance. So yeah, but it's disadvantage. It's for now. It's more. It provides more penalty, so it's a bit heavier than the previous one. So it depends on, but it's more performant in terms of disk I/O. So it's recommended to use it for databases, stuff like that.
So we can say that in general, for general use case, VirtIO driver would be pretty much the way to go. But if you're planning some heavy workloads, then
Yeah,
SCSI would be the one that you should consider then.
exactly.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So the next question is, this one is what optimization settings does the Windows Virtual Machine template contain, right? Because, well, obviously we mentioned it a couple of times that it has some of the settings already defined in this virtual machine template. Could you name a couple of these? What makes it so special?
Yeah, so as I said in the beginning, so the one of the benefit of using this VM prepared VM template, it has implemented optimized settings for Windows virtual machines. So apart from some general ones like machine type Q35, which is the modern one, then for example default on some operating system, which is i440FX, which is pretty outdated. And so apart from CPU model, which we recommend to set to the path through, it also contains some settings like, for example, input device. It has a tablet as an input device. It sufficiently improves your user experience when you're dealing with mouse cursor. So, but apart from that, it also contains several CPU features, like it enables physical address extension, it enables ACPI, API-C, and all these kind of things. So actually, we have publicly available documentation which describes and extends this topic sufficiently, so you can check it in our docs OpenNebula.io, and you will have at least the whole features you can find in this VM template. You have to look for optimize operating system profiles. So yeah, it's most concerned about FireEdge, but it's also applied here. So please check it on the web.
Cool. So probably then you should not edit it, but better, let's say, create your own copy, right? Because not to mess up this optimizations and keep it as vanilla as possible.
Yeah, it's okay to edit because you always can download the fresh one from our marketplace. So
Yeah, fair point. But then make sure that the name is different.
yeah, that's right.
And the third one, is there a way to automate all that Windows OS installation, update, and configuration procedure? Yeah, because to someone, installing this for Windows VM every time, for someone needs like, Windows 22, someone needs, Windows 11, someone may need 2025. So yeah, that's actually a fair point. Is there a way how to automate this one?
Yeah, once you went through the whole installation process and tuning it, so you might think about is there any way to automate it somehow? So yes, actually we can recommend the so-called one-apps tool, which we are using to build all images we have in our marketplaces. So it actually relies on so-called Packer, and we would recommend you to try it out because it simplifies life a lot. Especially if you have to deal with Windows installation, updates, and configuration procedure on regular basis. So yes, this is the way to go, definitely.
Yeah, so cool. One apps, just in case, is in the chat. If you're looking for, and yeah, I would say it's not limited only to Windows, but you can build a lot of things using that one apps. Pretty cool tool chain. Right. So then let's take a couple questions from the chat. So there is one. Right. So can I use the persistent image during the installation?
Yes, actually, it's one of the possible ways. So instead of using our placeholder, you can or you can make it persistent, for example, or if you want, or you can create a new empty persistent image, install Windows there, make required changes, install additional software there, and then when you terminate gracefully your virtual machine, all changes will be saved in this persistent disk. So this is also the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Right. There is a question. For running Windows virtual machines, do we need QEMU hosts?
We provide actually binary when we install OpenNebula node KVM package on your hypervisor node. It includes every required dependencies. So yeah.
Basically, yeah, it's well, QEMU. When we talk about QEMU, it's mostly like the software virtualization.
Yeah.
So probably KVM would be the question. Yeah, so you need KVM host to run. I mean, anything actually, because OpenNebula itself is not a virtualization platform, right? It's management platform.
Yeah.
So then yes, you need a KVM host in order to run Windows virtual machine. QEMU might be very, very sluggish because it only relies on like software virtualization. Thanks for the question. Right, another one. Are there any problems with Windows 11 support? Interesting one. Nikolai, anything you know about any issues with Windows 11?
No, I'm not aware about any issues Windows 11. The one of the issue, but not sure about if it concerns Windows 11, that for some Windows version, if you do not enable TPM support, you have to modify Windows registry, and it might be challenging.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. That's probably Windows 11 and Windows Server 2025 that may require that thing. So, yeah. Well, at least in our screencast that will be published in the future, there is the installation of Windows 2025, which I believe is very close to the desktop Windows 11, as Microsoft keeps that parity. So I'd say it should work without any issues. Okay, so there is another question. What about Secure Boot? Does it works?
yeah.
And
It's perfectly works.
so
Yeah. So yeah, we have implemented so-called auto selection feature when you don't have to provide even a path as it was before to the firmware binary. So you just have to click if you're using, for example, GUI FireEdge, you just have to click the corresponding checkbox, and that's it.
good, thank you. We also have another question. I'm getting error with TPM 2.0 while installing an OS. Even I mentioned TPM in template. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit in the chat? What kind of error are you receiving, so we could at least understand what is
Yeah,
might be a
we
problem.
need to know particular value for the value which is specified, like TPM-CRB or TIS. So I mean, you mentioned 2.0, so it should be
Yeah.
CRB. Yeah, as Alex said, it's better to have a look at logs to debug it further.
How to work with snapshots? Well, Nikolai?
But snapshots, it's more about like storage part, right? So it depends which kind of storage are you using. So yeah, most of
Probably
the Alex, please.
I would like to say that probably it doesn't differ, or it's not that different between Linux, Windows. So snapshotting would be like the actual snapshotting would be more a little bit out of scope of the session. However, like snapshotting a virtual machine, doesn't matter if it's a Windows or Linux, it's click of a button in the OpenNebula graphical UI. And depends, still, I would like, to take it a little bit further, depends on what you are looking at, whether it's like a virtual machine snapshot or it's a disk snapshot. Your virtual machine must be in a certain state, right? So, for example, if we're speaking of the whole virtual machine snapshot, your virtual machine must be running. If we're speaking of disk snapshot, your virtual machine can be in both states, either running or powered down. The disk snapshot can be taken anytime. But as also Mikolai had mentioned, it also depends on the storage, right? So there is a documentation on the available features per each storage type. So make sure that your storage supports that. Okay, so let's have a look. Do we have any other questions? This one, you're getting an error with TPM 2.0 while installing an operating system, even if I mention TPM in template, and you successfully run the Windows Server 2019. So you're kind of having issues with some newer Windows operating systems and TPM 2.0. But probably, as Mikolai had mentioned already, it's if like just right now is going to be, playing a guess game, trying to just get an error from nowhere. So the virtual machine log would be the best way to check it's in the first place, what could be an error. So logs you can find under the var log 1 and then the virtual machine ID and check what's there. So because again, there might be a gazillion probably of errors in that regard. So you need to have a specific one. Nevertheless, if probably it's also worth to mention that you also need better to check the forum as well. Either post your question there if you have that log excerpt, right? So someone either from the community or our engineers could have a look at the log and point you in the right direction. Or maybe the problem was already solved, right? And the one that you have is actually probably maybe quite trivial, and you could find the answer or at least some kind of a guides on how to fix your issue in the forum. So architecture. Yeah, but I mean, we need to have like a real excerpt. So once again, I would suggest then posting it in a forum with the whole excerpt of that failed VM. And then again, there might be some, specific detail that will contain an answer, and that's why the forum would be the place to paste the whole log. So because again, like architecture and targets issue, it's a very broad thing. So I'm sorry, but yeah, we need to pretty much see the actual log. So the forum would be where to paste that one to spark the discussion. And don't forget, if there are any other questions, drop them into the chat so we could answer on that Windows virtual machine topic. Okay, we have another one. Is there any Windows Server specific template planned? That's an interesting question, Mikolai. Do you know any development?
But what kind of specificity do you expect from the Windows Server template? Because the current optimal settings we have in the Windows VM template, I think, covers more or less most of the use cases. So if you need something special, probably, and which you're aware about, I mean, if you're aware about this, you may tune the settings. If there is some kind of feature which is OpenNebula is not covered, but it is presented in the libvirt on the libvirt level. There is a raw section which you can use and specify any key value attribute there in terms of libvirt, so it will be passed directly to the libvirt XML file, and yeah, VM will inherit it from there. So.
Right. Thank you. So yeah, I would say then our Windows template is pretty much covering both servers and workstation VMs. So there are currently nothing planned. Yeah, so the Windows template that Mikolai was telling you about it's in the OpenNebula marketplace. So I've already posted that one right here in the chat, right? So it's https marketplace.opennebula.io, and then just search for Windows, and you'll get this template, right? And this template comes all together packed with the virt.io drivers that you would need during the installation, as well as the contextualization package that integrates the virtual machine itself into the OpenNebula ecosystem, so you can manage it using OpenNebula, right? So all that is packed with this virtual machine template, so it can be located in that marketplace. And once again, you can browse that marketplace either from your computer, or if you have any live OpenNebula installation, then it has the public marketplace enabled by default. So yeah, the VM template is there actually. So feel free to use that one, and it has all these settings that Mikolai was telling about. Right, and probably worth to mention, Mikolai, is that this virtual machine template can be used for already built images, right? So
Yeah.
and
So yeah, as I said at the beginning, so you can remove our placeholder, which is empty by default, and you can attach, when you instantiate virtual machine from the disk template, you can attach the disk which you already have with pre-installed Windows. So yeah, two options are possible.
yeah, so whichever floats your boat, folks, then this one should be used, either the installation or if you already have an operating system image, then you can just swap that one. Good. Any hints, Mikolai, that you could add on Windows, on running that Windows template?
And what do you mean?
I don't know, maybe something from the contextualization part.
I encourage you
Anything?
to use one apps actually to get familiar with it. If you, as I said, if you expecting to do it on a regular basis, like updating Windows, installing various flavors, so it's definitely probably time consuming doing manually. Yeah, so probably it's better to utilize this one swap tool, and yeah, to get familiar, invest some time to get familiar with it, and then you will save a lot of time when you will start using it.
Right, there's another one. So, are you planning to distribute Windows image the same way you do with Linux?
It would be illegal.
Yeah, actually, a very good point, Nikolai. That there are some legal reasons why the image is not there, and hence that's the reason why our Windows virtual machine template actually comes with a placeholder instead of having the actual operating system on that. So I'd say for now the answer is no. Right. Are there any other questions? Feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, if you, I know, shy, maybe don't want to do it right now, or the question will come up later, rest assured, we've got you covered. So check out once again the forum. This session is also being recorded, so you will be able to watch it later. And it is going to be available on our official YouTube channel. Also, don't miss the upcoming webinars and upcoming office hours on some other topics and webinars covering the variety of things from typical product update and new features down to specific functionality of OpenNebula. So yeah, join our webinars and our trainings. You're always glad. You're always welcome there. And don't forget about our documentation. We have a different documentation there. So documenting just simply settings and installation, but also some specific integrations and some specific use cases. So feel free to check the documentation as well. You're welcome, Ilya. Bye-bye. Right. So we don't have any more questions as of right now, and I don't see any other questions in the chat. So I would like to thank you, Nikolai, for having you attending this call and preparing the presentation. I would like to thank anyone who attended this this session, and thanks for your questions. It was a very lively session. So once again, thanks for attending and see you next time.
Yeah, thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.